Well, season 4 just wrapped, so time to talk some Ray Donovan. I've been with this show since the beginning. It's one of my favorite shows. I think Liev Schreiber is one of the coolest characters on TV as Ray Donovan. I just want to trade lives with him for like one day because that guy's life just looks glamorous. But this is a show that, at least to me, has been damn near perfectly consistent since season 1. You know, I love season 2, probably is my favorite. But season 1, 2, and 3 were all pretty damn close as far as quality. And this season, I gotta be honest, guys, a little bit of a mixed bag. You know, I started off and I thought the season started very strong. I thought the middle was awesome, and pretty much all the stories and all the story threads, I was intrigued and I was engaged in all of them. But to me, it just kind of fell off the rails the last 2 or 3 episodes. So what I'm gonna do with this review, you know, I've already kind of went over my overall experience with the season. Now I'm going to get into like what I liked, what I didn't like. It's mostly just going to be focused on specific character threads that I liked and disliked, and then I'll wrap up my thoughts at the end. So as far as stories that I liked this season, you know, coming off of season 3, you had a lot of story threads that were kind of up in the air. You had Terry getting shot by the mob. You had Mickey and Ray and Avi going in and taking out the entire mob that was after them in that season. Ray gets shot. He finally kind of admits that he murdered the priest to Father Romero, I believe was the guy's name, who's been kind of following him and stalking him basically all season. He's bleeding out. You don't know whether or not he's going to make it or not. I mean, obviously he's going to make it, but they leave it open whether or not he's going to make it or not. And he's getting drove back to LA by the father. And that's kind of how your season wraps up. You know, Bridget's left home, and Bunchy's gotten married. And as far as how they pick things up in this season, they start off and Ray is pretty much, he seems like he's a devout Christian again. You know, he's a devout Catholic. He's starting to believe in God again. He's starting to, you know, repent his sins, and he's going to all these AA meetings and everything like that. So you go in with the impression, okay, this season is going to be about Ray's change from how he was, you know, being an alcoholic, lying to his family, you know, renouncing God and all this kind of stuff. And this season's probably going to be about his struggle with his faith. And it really wasn't, you know, and I'll get into him in a little bit. But the main character, as far as what I liked about this season, the main storyline that I liked the most was Mickey. What Jon Voight brings to that character is just phenomenal. He is so damn funny with the way that he just delivers his lines, and he just kind of has that little shakiness that, you know, Jon Voight has, and he just got, for being a piece of shit basically, he just has so much charisma that you love everything that Mickey does. Even though he's destructive, even though he just drags everybody down with him, you just love seeing what Jon Voight brings to that character. And his story this season was simple, but I liked it. You know, he's basically trying to rob this casino, and you know, he's got this horseshoe full of money that he's trying to steal. He's got this woman who's kind of like a cocktail waitress slash singer who he's now in love with. She's kind of his flavor of the month now. You know, you've got where especially whenever he comes to the point where he turns himself in to kind of save the family from the fallout of season 3 whenever they went in and shot all the mobsters. That was a really big character moment for him because it showed that he's not being selfish. He actually loves his family. And even when he gets into prison, it's just more comedy gold, especially when he's trying to convince all the people that he's gay so that he can get moved to a higher security prison. It's just absolutely hilarious. Like the scene when the counselor comes in and you've got the one prisoner throwing up, and Jon Voight realizes he's coming really quick and just kind of stages a little scene. You know, I'm not going to describe what happens because it's pretty graphic, but that was absolutely hilarious to me. And just, I love Jon Voight. I love what he brings to that character. It's a shame he hasn't gotten an Emmy yet. So I loved what Mickey brought. The other character that I loved her arc the most in this season is Abby. Now, Abby for the past few seasons has come into very, very close danger of being this stereotypical, cliche, bitchy, pain in the ass wife. And that is a character trope that I'm just so sick of seeing in TV shows. It's like every single TV show where the main protagonist is a male, the only thing the writers can ever figure out to do with his wife is just make her a pain in his ass. And I get so tired of seeing it. You know, they did it with Dexter with Rita. They did it with Breaking Bad with Skyler. They did it on Homeland. They've done it in so many shows where that's just all they can do. Even if the wife is morally right, like in Dexter, he's a serial killer. In Breaking Bad, he's a fucking meth cook. So the wife technically is right, but just the way that they write her is just, she's just such a bitch and such a pain in his ass that everybody hates them. And she came into a lot of storyline like that, especially whenever she was kind of dating that cop and then she was trying to manipulate him into murdering somebody and all that craziness. Just, I was not a fan of where her character was going. And then this season comes and totally redeems her. She's back to being a really good, strong, well fleshed out character. She's a good foil for Ray. And in a lot of ways, she's stronger than Ray. The way that she kind of just keeps the family together. They gave her struggle with cancer, which was a really kind of gripping storyline because it's something that Ray can't just go out and fix, or he can't just pay to have fixed. And especially with her kind of insistence of not going through chemo and just kind of letting things go. And you know, they have that great scene where they tell her that you're stage 0 and she's like, isn't fucking everybody stage 0? What the hell? And I also liked how she kind of grew. You know, in the beginning she was very hesitant and scared and nervous about Ray's lifestyle and everything that comes with it, and then by the end she was kind of like intrigued by it and kind of like intoxicated in a way where she's almost like accepting that that's the way that he's going to be, and that's the things that's going to happen to them. They're going to have random people with guns coming into their lives, and she's like ready to take it all on. So like I loved that kind of growth for her character. So this definitely season 4 was my favorite season as far as Abby's storyline. I also liked a lot what they did with Terry. He's probably my third favorite character behind Ray and Mickey. And I like that he's kind of like the moral compass for the family. You know, he's the one who, even though he does bad shit here and there, he's still, you can tell that Terry's a really nice guy, and he just kind of keeps all that in. And his storyline this season kind of let that come out. They had, even though I wasn't a fan of the character himself, he had that kid Damon who kind of tried to steal Abby's purse, and then he pretty much tries to kind of guide and mentor this kid into being like this new boxing mogul, this new up-and-comer, and it kind of let him be like a father figure. It really let his nice and caring side come out. So I liked that whole storyline with Terry. I liked, even though they didn't really go anywhere with it, how he was kind of having that on-off fling with the cop. And I liked his storyline this season as well. I liked Bunchy. I like that they finally gave the dude some balls and let him be a man this season. You know, for reasons that are understandable. He's always kind of been the twitchy, nervous one, doesn't really want to do or say the wrong thing. He doesn't really want to get involved in anything dangerous. And he's finally over the whole, you know, priest molestation stuff, so that's not his main storyline anymore. He's got a wife, he's got a baby on the way, and he's got a baby through the other half of the season. And he's just finally growing up. And you know, I've always liked his character, but after a while he was just kind of like the whiny brother. So I liked how he kind of became more of a man and kind of stepped into his role as a Donovan this season. I love that Hank Azaria came back as Cochran. He's probably my favorite recurring character. You know, he was great in season 2. Whenever he showed back up to try to be a pain and raise ass in season 3, I love seeing him. And this season was probably my favorite that he's ever been as far as that character. It was being like this wannabe rock star and being obsessed with karaoke and actually trying to help Ray as long as he gets some money for it. Just Hank Azaria is hilarious in that role. And I loved the scene. It's probably one of my favorite scenes of the season when Ray needs his help. So he makes Ray get up and sing karaoke before he'll help him. Just that scene was great, and just I hope Hank Azaria keeps coming back because he's, like I said, he's my favorite recurring character, and just whenever he gets inserted into this, I just immediately start smiling. Hector Campos, who was pretty much Ray's main person that he was fixing things for this season, I liked his storyline. You know, it kind of fizzled out towards the end, but I thought he was an interesting character. I thought the whole, you know, darkness of the past and all the crazy stuff going on with his sister, played by Lisa Bonet, was actually pretty intriguing. It was weird, but it was intriguing. I liked that he was a character that you couldn't quite figure out. You want to hate him, but you want to like him at the same time. You don't quite know where his stance is. I liked that they actually kind of focused and had one person that Ray is working for as far as fixing things this season instead of having a bunch of different trails. Like I said, it fizzled out a little bit, but I liked that character, and I liked where his kind of storyline brought an overarching storyline together for all the Donovans, and it made sense. It didn't feel forced. So I liked how he kind of tied everybody together this season. The other small thing that I liked too, which wasn't really something that was a huge overarching theme in this season, but I liked all the small family moments this year. You know, I liked when the family got together for Bridget's return. I liked when Ray and Abby started playing Just Dance with Connor. I liked when they had, like, at the very end of the season, whenever they were all dancing together in the nightclub or the fight club. I like all those moments, and that's when Ray Donovan is at its best, whenever they really harness in on that family element, because whenever these Donovans interact with each other, that's when the show is the strongest. That, and as far as the side characters, whenever they're kind of playing into like a satire in Hollywood, that's also when the show's at its strongest. So I'm hoping season 5 kind of hones in more on that, because I love the family elements in this season, and I want to see more of that. As far as character arcs that I did not like this season, unfortunately, I didn't like Ray's. You know, like I said at the beginning, we were kind of under the impression that he was going to be struggling with his faith or having this big overarching change as a character this season, and he really didn't change at all for me. You know, he was still, after that first episode, he's still an alcoholic. He's still lying to his family and deceiving everybody and kind of keeping everybody in the dark. He still never smiles, you know, except for maybe 1 or 2 little small scenes in the season. He doesn't have anything new as far as his faith. He still acts like God doesn't exist and all this kind of stuff. So it didn't really build upon what season 3 built up. Just, to me, he just didn't really have that much of a growth as a character this season. He just kind of stayed stagnant. And to me, that was kind of disappointing, because with a show like this, you want your character to grow a little bit each season to keep it from feeling monotonous. And they didn't quite do that for me this year with Ray. I didn't like Daryl's arc, if you can even call it an arc this season. They didn't give that guy anything to do this season. He was just kind of like the errand boy. Whenever they needed, hey, Daryl, go pick up Lisa Bonet. Hey, Daryl, just go over there and go beat that guy up. Hey, Daryl, just go sit over there, and when I tell you, punch that guy. And that's basically his role the entire season. He didn't really have any good standout moments. He didn't really have any good jokes. He didn't really have any interaction hardly with Mickey. And it's just, to me, he was kind of a throwaway this season. The other throwaways, easily, is Connor and Bridget. Not that they've ever been the focus of the show, but they're kind of getting dextered, where they can't figure out what to do to write the kids in, so they're kind of just shoving them off to the side. They're like, okay, we'll see you in 5 episodes. And it just, to me, they were a waste this season. You know, Bridget was kind of, she left the family and was kind of going off on her own at the end of last season. This season, the first episode, she comes back for like her birthday dinner, and they start to continue the storyline with her having a relationship with her teacher. And right away, when those two show up, it takes it to a much deeper and darker and much more mature level than the story arc they had last season. And you're like, ooh, this is not going to be good. And they don't do anything with it. You know, the guy shows up for 2 scenes, the teacher, in this season, and then they just kind of give a half-assed reason why he's not around anymore. She's like, oh, I found out that he did this with somebody else before, so I'm not going to see him anymore. And it was just for a storyline that they've been building up for a season, and it was like a season and a half by the time that scene came up. They kind of just threw it away, and that was kind of disappointing to me. And also, I was never quite convinced why she came back to the Donovan family. You know, all the reasons why she left were still there, and they had that one little scare with the guy coming into the house and shooting, and Abby having to kill him, so everybody was off in the hotel rooms until Ray could figure everything out. After that scene, it was like she was just forget everybody, and she's back in the Donovan clan again, and it was kind of forced and unexplained to me. And as far as Connor, he didn't really have a big storyline the past couple of seasons, but this season, his entire storyline was, I want to be a gangster like my dad, so I want to steal his gun and go shoot it at things. And not only does it make you hate him as a character because he's just one of those rich, entitled little pricks, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Ray tries to scare the shit out of him, and then Ray apologizes like Ray is the one who is in the wrong, and then Connor's just basically in the background the rest of the season. So those 2 characters were easily throwaways. There was a lot of plot lines this season that the resolution never quite felt earned. You know, whenever they resolve the story with Mickey and stealing that horseshoe, he goes to steal the horseshoe. He ends up getting the girl that he's supposed to be in love with, Sylvie, killed. And then for like 2 or 3 episodes, he's like giving up his money and he doesn't want anything to do with this. And he's like going through this huge change as a character. And they never quite built up Sylvie in this season to make her death feel all that impactful. I mean, when it happens, you're like, oh shit, that sucks. But it's not like this huge emotional moment, and you never quite buy into Mickey feeling that strongly for her. And then you have that woman, Sonia, who has this big effect on Ray, which they never quite fleshed that out. You know, she has the one really good scene where she shows him her mastectomy, and it kind of has this weird parallel with Abby, but they never quite established their relationship, what it is. Is it a sexual relationship? Are they just intrigued by each other? Is it all professional? They just had that one flirtation, and whenever, like, it never quite sells you on why he's so determined to help her out and why he's so upset later on when he finds out that she's dead. And she was she was a character that just didn't quite feel earned by the end with all the ramifications they tried to build upon her. And you also had a storyline which I was a big fan of this year, which was Abby's cancer. They just resolved that with a nice little tidy bow by the end. She just, you know, and they could leave it open where maybe she was lying, but they didn't give any kind of implications that she was withholding information. She just tells Ray at the season finale, she's like, hey, the doctor just called, my cancer's disappearing. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess that storyline's done with, and it just didn't quite have any impact by the end of the season. And then the main villain, Sokolov, how they kind of wash away that whole situation was just so quick and easy that it kind of took me out of the finale altogether. You know, you have this guy played by the guy who plays Arlo off of Justified, and he comes in and, you know, he damn near kills Avi. He gets the whole family scared. He gets Ray scared. He's built up to be like the most formidable foe that Ray has come up against, not somebody that he can just quickly get rid of. And then what do? They quickly get rid of him. His solution is, oh, well, we'll just kill him. And it just didn't quite make sense to me. You know, they built it up for like the past 3 or 4 episodes of the season. This is a guy you don't want to fuck with. This is a guy that once he's involved, you're pretty much done for. And he goes through all this shit trying to hide Sonya and trying to get Avi back and trying to keep his family away and, you know, convincing Hector to throw a fight so that he can pay this guy off. And he's, you know, telling Abby to leave and don't be around him anymore because he knows this guy's going to come for him. And then he just wraps it all up really easily. He points the cop at the drugs. He gets Avi to kill Sokolov and his driver, and Bunchy and Mickey, which was pretty cool, going off and killing some other people. You know, I like the element of bringing the family together to solve the problem, but it was such an easy fix for a problem that was made out to be like this huge unsolvable issue that I did not like how that turned out at all. There was a few other storylines too that were just kind of left dangling with no resolution. And by the end of the season, they just kind of seemed pointless. Like Teresa's postpartum disease, you know, they throw that on you out of nowhere this season, and then you're on board for it. And, you know, then they kind of force this, well, she's always been crazy, you just never realized it storyline, which didn't need to be there. They could have just kept it simple with the postpartum. And then after that one episode where they kind of get her out of the mental institution, her postpartum just kind of goes away, and her as a character kind of just goes away. She just leaves, and you never see any kind of resolution with her and Bunchy, and it just kind of died off. And, you know, they had the whole thing building up about Hector throwing the fight, and then he ended up not throwing the fight, which is a last minute decision. And like, what happened to all the money that Ray and Mickey invested in that bet? Now that money's just gone. Like, they never explained or even mentioned what's going on with all that too, so that kind of fell off. As a whole, guys, this season to me just felt like they started off really strong. They built it up a lot for the middle, but they just kind of fizzled out in the last act. You know, it felt like they burned through a lot of their best storylines and a lot of their most intriguing episodes by like episode 9 or 10. And just, to me, this season is the least successful of the 4. It's still a really good season overall. You know, Ray Donovan's one of those shows that even when it's kind of just okay, it's better than most of the shows out there. And a lot of that has to do with, like I said, the family element and the way that these actors kind of bring these characters to life. So I still enjoyed the season a lot overall. Just the last three and a half episodes of Sword just kind of left me wanting more. And just, I really wish that Ray as a character had more growth and had more stakes this season. So wasn't my favorite season of Ray Donovan, but it's still worth your guys' attention if you have not seen it yet. This might be one of those seasons that kind of lends itself a lot better to binging versus waiting week to week like I did. So for Ray Donovan season 4, probably best to check it out on Netflix. Well, that wraps up my thoughts for Ray Donovan season 4, guys. Please leave your comments in the section below what you thought about this season. If you liked it, if you thought it kind of fizzled out by the end like I did, what characters you thought had good arcs this season, bad arcs this season. If you're going to stick around for season 5, what story directions you think season 5 might take us in, put all that in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. Please like and share this video, and make sure to click that subscribe button. That way you can come back next time and see me whenever I post some more reviews or top 5 rundowns or Hollywood highlights or any of my other numerous shows. And if that's not soon enough for you, you can click right over here to check out a few more.